Okay, so today, this is what we're working with. This client doesn't have so much of a money problem. They don't have a real financial issue here. What they have is a complexity problem. If you look over here, we're going to skip ahead to accounts total. This is all their assets. This is their net worth right here. They have almost $2 million. They're about a year away from retirement. You should be celebrating in this situation. You should be pretty happy with what you've done here. But instead, these two clients are incredibly stressed out, very nervous, uncertain about the future, worried about their health and how they're going to handle that in the event of a health crisis. And they really shouldn't be worried about anything. They're not unhealthy right now. It does run in the family. It's a very real concern that they will have to address at some point. We can help them with that in the future. But they are stressed out. They are worried. They are nervous. He doesn't really want to quit working. There's comfort in work. There's comfort in doing what you've been doing for 40 years. And they're not really prepared for retirement. They don't have Medicare set up. He gets insurance through work. They don't have long-term care set up. They don't have a very clear answer on where they're going to draw their income from. Clearly, they don't have a money problem, as I stated earlier, but they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 custodians here. The concern is when they retire, how much you're going to draw from which account when some are up, some are down. You don't know where they are. You don't have the hotline number. You don't have your PIN for this account. What do you do in that situation? Except take a deep breath and start picking up phone calls and going through old mail, I suppose. But these clients came to us. Again, we can't really help them with their money. They have enough money. They're very frugal. They don't spend money. They're like me. They drive 20-year-old cars. It's not a spending problem. It's just where do we get the money? How many accounts do we have? They don't even know all their accounts. It took us a couple days to dig this up and get it organized this well. So the solution here we have for people is actually extremely simple. Normally, we would supplement the income with the private pension that we saw in the last plan, a form of annuity that provides pension-like income for the rest of your life. But for folks who are so used to the market, they have individual stocks here. You can see they have Walmart, Nvidia, they have some pharmaceuticals. I just put them all into one cluster for that one. They have variable annuities, 401k. This is an investment-heavy kind of client. And while I would recommend, get away from me, Copilot, while I would recommend at least getting this baseline 150 or 145 handled with private pensions, Social Security, real pensions if you have it, they're a little harder to convince to step away from the growth angle than others. And that's okay. We can accommodate that, and I'll show you in just a second how we accommodated that. People are really ingrained in their ways, and when you tell them to throw growth out the window, that doesn't sit well with people. I always kind of pose the question, what's better? To be able to aggressively grow your money, or to have enough money that you'll never have to worry about any kind of payment or vacation, car, all of your needs are handled for life, and you have that guaranteed for the rest of your life. Is that better, or is aggressively growing your money better? And there's really no good way to tell. Time tells, and we don't have crystal balls, as the cliche goes. So you kind of have to work with, you have to guesstimate as best as possible. You have to kind of figure how long you think you're going to live. That's a problem. Will you live too long? Will inflation eat that guaranteed income? There are questions like that that we go over in meetings, but I'll go ahead and show you what we did for them. It's incredibly simple. You don't just because you're a financial planner doesn't mean you need to be complex. You don't need to run all kinds of scenarios and simulations and use covered notes and whatnot. Sometimes you can stick to the basics, and that does exactly what you need. So here is the plan that I whipped up for them. Very simple. Again, it's not my first plan, but they told me they like the market. They told me they like market growth. They didn't seem to resonate with pension type income very well. Let me go back real quick. This variable annuity was a pension that they wanted to invest safely. So, they like the growth, so we'll give them the growth. We always do what the client wants at the end of the day. So here I have it, I labeled it as MV10. That's an annuity. It's a fixed annuity. It gets about 50% of the up and none of the down. People really like that. People come into the office and specifically ask for that before we've even started interviewing them, finding out what their needs are. They'll go ahead and ask for this one immediately. It gets about 50% of the up of the market, none of the down. It credits once a year. So the worst you can do on this thing is a 0. That's what people like about it. If the market goes up 20%, you'll get about 10. We had a lot of people get about 9 to 13% last year. Now that doesn't always happen. You'll get years with zeros, you'll get years with 3%. You have to watch it a bit, but it's a completely, utterly safe to your principal tool. There's no fees coming out, so you get all of the growth. And people really like that. You can take, the downside is it's limited liquidity. You can take about 10% a year from this policy, but I always ask people, do you plan on spending all of your money in 10 years? And I almost always get horrific looks back at me thinking, no, we don't plan on spending all of our money in 10 years. And I go, well, most people don't. I've never seen anyone use all 10% of the liquidity. So here we have them taking 4%. We're going to stick to the basic rule. 4% rule. They're going to take first year $35,514 a year, and this should grow over time. I have enough confidence in this that I'm comfortable saying this is going to grow and not lose too much ground over time. Albeit slower than the market, but still, you'll have that when you pass away. You should have the lump sum there and have been able to draw the income. Column 2, I have them in the S&P 500 index with, this is the important part, if I can get this highlight to go away. I'll just keep talking while I'm having technical difficulties. The S&P 500 index with the 15% stop loss, meaning you're fully exposed to the market gains and losses, but when the market drops down 15%, it's going to kick you out in the cash and bonds. And I spoke about that a little bit in the last video. These do historically very well. Now they do have pitfalls too. We do have bad years where the market didn't do as bad as we did, but over time, this is a good way of doing it. It's much simpler than diversifying your portfolio. It's just a different philosophy. There's nothing wrong with diversifying your portfolio. You go look at 401ks, 90% of people have a blend of stocks and bonds. This just simplifies it a bit. Why don't we get all of the market up? And if the market takes a downturn, we'll just kick you out into cash. Happens automatically. We'll get you back in at the right time. Hopefully. You never know on that one. I can't promise that actually. But this has been successful with our clients. We have these portfolios personally as advisors, and they do quite well, especially over time. And that's it. You draw 4% from that, 4% from the MV10, and if we go to incomes, we have him working one last year here, and then that drops off for the rest of time. He's not going back to work. Then we have their Social Securities being taken next year. Yes, we have them being taken next year. Those will kick on once he quits working. There might be some variation, some gap between, but we'll make up for it. They'll be fine. And you see from salary in year one, he goes from $145,000 a year to $140,000 with the combined Social Security, withdrawals from his stock account, the S&P 500 with the stop loss, and then 4% withdrawal from the MV10. So we just about make up his income in retirement. It will go up over time, so eventually you can see as the years go on, 4% out of the market should be higher, 4% out of the MV10 should be higher if it grows theoretically. We don't know what order that growth is going to come in, so there could be down years, and I'll address that in a second. But we should see steady growth of income over time. you know, I can't put in down years, so we'll address that as they come. And here's how we'll address it. If the market's down a certain year and the market account isn't performing as well as we were hoping, we suspend the 4% out of this and take an extra 4% out of the MV10. It's easy because the beauty of the MV10 and things like it, there are more things like this out in the marketplace. The beauty of this is that it's always at its high point unless you take money out. The only way it could go down is if you take money out, which we do plan on doing here. But you'll never be withdrawing from a lost position. It'll only be lower because you used the money and it went into your checking account. People like that. In good years, we take from both 4 and 4. In bad years, you take 8 from the MV10, let the S&P 500 grow a little bit, give that one a break, let it recover some, and then as the S&P goes back up, maybe take a little bit less out of the MV10, take more out of the S&P when you're getting those gains. And it's a very simple procedure, not as simple as the guaranteed income, not as simple as the private pension route, but for people that still want to be in the market, they still want a chance at higher gains than what the guaranteed income can provide. This is really the simplest solution. It's very easy. There's very few moving parts compared to this. Imagine if the market's down, they don't know how down any of these accounts are because they're getting 6 different statements with 6 different pie charts from 6 different advisors, from 6 different custodians that they got to call multiple times if they want to take some from each. For this client, for this kind of client, very worried, very nervous, did extremely well as evidenced by the almost $2 million net worth, did incredibly well to grow their money. But now that they have to look at it, now that they're not just living off of their income frugally, now that they're going to rely on these accounts, they do not want to deal with 6 different custodians. These clients have good this is kind of silly. These clients they're in relatively good health right now for their age group. They got beautiful heads of hair, but if they have to start dialing 6 different numbers to 6 different custodians, I don't think their hair is going to last much longer. With this plan, they only have to worry about 2 accounts. S&P is fully liquid. They can have as much as they want whenever they want it. MV10 has a 10% withdrawal provision, but nobody ever draws that 10%. I've never seen it. And they just take as needed. Maneuver as needed. So that is the simple plan. I don't have a name for it. Maybe I'll call it the half and half. It's good for clients that want to stay in the market, but they know they need to start de-risking with age, but they don't want to give up that inflation hedge. They don't want to give up that lifelong preference for growth. They don't want to go into we need to take income, guaranteed income. There's still a chance they can go higher. This is for them. But we have safety nets by never losing principal in the MV10 and having a 15% floor on the S&P 500. That is a good way for clients to simplify their life, get real gains still, and you're changing the philosophy minimally. You're not diversifying, you're putting a stop loss in instead of diversifying. And that's the gist of it. I'll have more plans. I think the next plan that I'll show y'all will be a little bit more complicated. It'll have some pension elements. It'll have some of the safe growth from the MV10. It'll have some market growth, and it'll be a different kind of client for sure. Again, these are real clients. I'm changing the names and I change the professions. I change a few things to make them unidentifiable and protect their identity. But these are real scenarios and real situations that we deal with every day with hundreds of people that come and visit us. So I hope this has been valuable in some way. I hope maybe you learned something. I hope maybe it's given you a different perspective on how you can manage your funds nearing or in retirement. It doesn't have to be complicated. All those statements you get in the mail, all those pie charts, all those the list of different funds and individual stocks that they have itemized with each line item, the percentage going up and down. That can all be simplified if you want, if you're comfortable with it. Slightly different philosophy, but we can tell you and you can ask. These work very well, and it's a slight change in philosophy. So that's the video for today. I'll see you next time, and I'll hopefully have something a little bit more complicated for you, and I hope you can learn from that as well. Take care, and bye-bye. Oh, you can see my screen again.